USA, 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 USA. Great men and women have walked on this soil, building a legacy through insight and toil. The story and glory will always prevail, with wisdom and fearless, and as a dreamer. 250 years since the start. Land of the free, home of the brave, the shining city that the heavens gave, a beacon of hope for the world to behold, the greatest of nations, we the USA. USA, USA, USA. From every corner and far away shores, souls arriving at the Lady Liberty's doors. The land of the hope, making dreams grow, where the spirit of freedom eternally flows, and the seeds of promise always in the air. Land of the free, home of the brave, the shining city that the heavens gave, a beacon of hope for the world to behold, the greatest of nations, we the USA. USA, USA, USA. Through shadows of wars and the darkest of years, the North Star remained the shiniest at all times. With empathy deep and with hearts of angels, we stand as the beacon of hope for all corners, and we the USA. The USA, the greatest on the planet. Land of the free, home of the brave, the shining city that the heavens gave, a beacon of hope for the world to behold, the greatest of nations, we the USA. USA, USA, USA. With military might and shielding the despair with hope, our brave men and women reaching the mountain top, protecting the world with the strength and a grace, the pride of the planet, the soul of hope and peace. 250 years of freedom and life. Land of the free, home of the brave, the shining city that the heavens gave, a beacon of hope for the world to behold, the greatest of nations, we the USA. USA, USA, USA. 250 years, the story and glory, the greatest of nations, we the USA. USA, 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 we the USA. From mountaintops to open plains, through sunshine, storms, and pouring rain, we learned to dream, we learned to fight, we held on through the darkest nights. From little towns and city lights to waving flags on summer nights, every heartbeat tells a story of a nation born for glory. We've laughed together, we've cried together, we found our way somehow, and every generation keeps believing now. Still we stand hand in hand across this blessed land. Hearts of hope, dreams so grand. Still we stand. Still we stand. Stars above, built on faith and love. For 250 years, we faced our fears. Still we stand. Every family, every face, every dream has found its place. Different roads, different songs, still together we belong. Raise the voices, lift them high. Watch your glory fill the sky. Every child deserves tomorrow, filled with joy instead of sorrow. The story's still unfolding, the best is yet to come. Every new generation keeps the promise strong. Still we stand side by side with courage as our guide. Every heart, every hand, still we stand. Still we stand. Freedom sings, hope forever rings. May the next 200 years bring even brighter dreams. Still we stand. So here's to every dreamer, every worker, every friend, to every sacrifice that helped the story never end. May kindness lead tomorrow, may love outshine our fears. May children sing these words another 200 years. Still we stand, America, forever we'll believe. The road goes on, our story's strong, together we achieve. Still we stand. Raise your voice, let freedom sing again. From sea to shining sea, this is hope, and always will be. Still we stand, still we dream, still we hope, still we love, still we stand. Happy birthday, America. 250 years.
Hello, everybody. Hey, Fargo, how's it going? I had a great show this afternoon. I texted on my post that I was going to do 2 shows because I had to get a lot of good stuff out today. We did Mel 45 minutes. And then guess what else we got tonight? We got 2 Billy Beans, 18 minutes. And then Mel is with Holly for another, I think, 45 minutes. So luckily I did my show this afternoon. There's so much to get out. I got 240 already on the first show. Oh, she was? We only had like 10 people in chat, but we because everybody was at work, but we had a lot of people listening. So that was a good show. We had 240 though. KK should be in here too. Yeah, I talked to her. Did you hear about that guy in Florida? I'm gonna send you that Wendy video to you if you want it, and so you can watch it. It was a one she did in Florida. Yep, thanks, Mary. Wow, she had 37,000 views on this video. I think I better play that one. Wow. So I guess I'll play that one. Guess what the temperature was today? Yep, Chico made it through. It was my brother-in-law said it was 105 to 107 out there today. It looks like tomorrow they're saying it could be a big day tomorrow, Triangle. We'll see what happens. I'm going to go ahead and get started, everybody. I hope we get everybody in here. I'm going to be a little bit early starting. I got a lot out to get out. The first one is 4 minutes from Amy Comey today. Barrett. I'll do a short clip on that.
Investigated against federal judges in just
3
the
minutes.
preceding 5 years. Would you talk about how the volume and nature of threats against the court has changed over the past several years, particularly following the Dobbs decision and the 2022 incident at Justin Kavanaugh's home? Does the threat level change in 2026, and what do you believe is driving that trend?
The numbers, as you've mentioned, it was up 25% last year, on track for 38% this year, and those
Microphone, please.
Good.
Yes.
And those statistics sound abstract, but being on the receiving end of them is not. So I thought I would just share a little bit about how the threats have affected me and my family personally. They have required me to, my children, to think about and see things that children should not have to see or think about. One example is when threats to my life were particularly intense a few years ago, around the time of the Dobbs leak. My security detail sent me home with a bulletproof vest, and I carried it into my house, put it into my bedroom, dropped it down on a table, Turned around and my 12-year-old son was standing in the doorway of my bedroom, and he wanted to know what it was and why I had it. And I didn't know how to respond because maybe I lack imagination, but I didn't expect that performing this service was going to put me in the position of explaining to my children what a bulletproof vest was and why I had to wear one. It's also been reported in the news that roughly 6 weeks ago, I was the victim of a swatting incident. At that point, my teenage son, one of my teenage sons, opened the door to go out with friends and saw in our street, it was full of police cars, who had responded to a false report of gunshots and raised voices in my home. I was very, very grateful that I had Supreme Court police outside my home because they were able to stop and witness and explain to the county police that it had been a false alarm, and so the police did not actually attempt to enter our home. Many of us, me included, have received threatening anonymous deliveries designed to intimidate and harass us. They are often sent in the name of Judge Salas's son, who I think, as you mentioned in the beginning, Mr. Chairman, is deceased because he was killed by a disgruntled lawyer who showed up at Judge Salas's home intending to kill her, but her son, 20 years old at the time, opened the door and took the bullet instead. Her husband, standing behind, was seriously injured. So I think the message on these deliveries being sent in his name is clear. As Justice Kagan said, federal judges across the country, throughout the judiciary, including the Supreme Court, continue to do their jobs without fear or favor, but the threat level is really high.
If you sit on the toilet, bear down and barely.
So, Lucy, I got 218 Billy Beans out, and Nell and Holly is 45. So those are our three big ones tonight. And I got one cat lady so far.
Experts on Iran and what they were going to do with their weapon, or if they had a weapon or not, because a lot of y'all come on my post every time I say something about Iran chanting death to America, and y'all all saying that they had no weapon, they had no intentions of hitting the United States. I want to ask you something, all of you that do that. Can y'all start posting your credentials and your screenshots of your proof when you come on here running your mouth saying they wasn't going to do nothing, they didn't have a weapon? Because apparently all of you people who work at Subway or Costco or used car dealers, y'all have access to more information than the damn president and his military has, because y'all know more than he does. Y'all got the inside scoop to Iran. And let me tell you something else. This regime killed 52,000 people that we know of, their own people, just for protesting the Islamic regime. But yet y'all come on my post saying they wasn't going to bother us, because chanting death to America and killing thousands of our people and secretly building a nuclear weapon was for what? You know, the ignorance is just amazing. And then this morning, I saw a post where a lady was being real rude to a man who spoke no English whatsoever. He was an Amazon delivery driver. He used a porta potty that was in her yard that they used for when they were doing construction on her house. Well, she was fucking rude to him. I thought it was horrible, okay? Well, he didn't have a clue what the fuck she was saying because he had to pull out a translation app, okay? And in the comments, obviously she's MAGA. Obviously she's MAGA. Y'all are so fucking consumed with the Night of the Living Dead fucking zombie pod brain that y'all got that you can't even watch a video that has nothing to do with the president without screaming out something negative toward MAGA people. And I've got news for all of you. Any rude white bitch that you see on here that's being nasty and vile is a fucking liberal, okay? It's not MAGA. We're not the ones out there in the streets acting like deranged fucking crazed ass
Yeah.
dogs
She's wild.
running around screaming and
Right.
hollering, wearing diapers and fuzzy wuzzy costumes and cheering for algae. That's not MAGA, you bunch of insane motherfuckers. Hey guys,
A lot of language on that one. I got a 3-minute one next. The White House.
Plan describes a complex beneath the ballroom, a hardened space dug deep with room for far more than a dance floor. The confirmed specifics are thin, and the people building it say little. What's clear is that they're digging something big down there, and they're doing it quietly. Going deep buys two things at once. It puts hard earth between the important rooms and anything that hits the surface, and it hides the layout, so an attacker planning against the building can't map what they can't see. But one room down there is the layer everything else falls back to. When the threat beats every system above ground, a president gets walked past through a blast door. It's a slab of hardened steel that seals behind him with that same pressurized hiss. On the other side is a room with its own communications, its own air, and its own power. The links run out on hardened lines that don't depend on the grid or the cell network above. The air comes off the same kind of sealed, filtered, positive pressure loop protecting the floors overhead. The power sits on generators with fuel stored on site. Cut every cable and pipe feeding the building, and the room keeps running, long enough to command the whole country while the world above it sorts itself out. The temptation is to call that bunker the last place to hide. The sharper read is this: every layer above it is built to catch the threat early, out in the air, at the wall, at the door. The bunker is the one layer that admits the catching might fail. You can net the flyer blocks from the lawn. You can stop the shooter at a wall you own. But a cloud on the wind and a siege that simply waits you out can't be caught early. For those, the only move is the oldest one there is. Drop below the ground, seal the door, and outlast it. So the most aggressive, catch-it-first build in the world still bottoms out in a sealed room underground. That's the tension running through the whole project. Hundreds of millions, maybe $1 billion, spent to push the defense outward. Microphones reaching a mile into the sky. Nets flying out to meet a threat over the city. A launch deck on the roof. And all of it sitting on top of a hole in the ground that says, if none of that works, go here. For those same 200 years, the rule was simple. Survive the breach. Something got over the fence, so the fence got taller. Something flew at it, so the airspace got tighter. Patch the last hole, wait for the next one. One scar at a time. What's going up now flips it. Don't survive the breach, make sure it never reaches you. Microphones fingerprinting a buzz from a mile out. Nets waiting in the air. A room that breathes its own air. A floor that drops away to a vault when the worst happens. And on a roof that isn't even built yet, drones lined up, pointed at a sky that for the first time is being watched before anything shows up in it. They're looking up now. If you enjoyed this video, then look at these insane White House security features currently in place today. Bye for now.
I'm not sure if I did or not. Okay, Fargo, you can explain this one for me. I don't know what this means. That was that. I got the Wire channel coming up next. No, buddy, it's hotter than heck out there.
Day, and honestly, they're the
5 minutes.
This is The Wire for 1900 Zulu, July 14th, 2026. Precedence is routine. Information cutoff is 1800. Bottom line up front. War in Middle East remains hot, with the United States and Iran exchanging heavy fire overnight. New York Times journalists issued subpoenas regarding their reporting on Air Force One. Beginning with international events, in the Middle East, the war continued to escalate overnight, with the attack-counterattack cycle no longer being distinguishable, as all belligerents are now attacking constantly. At least 2 more ships have been struck in the Strait of Hormuz since last night, and the United States has continued to fly continuous sorties to strike targets within Iran. Dozens of targets were struck overnight, with CENTCOM announcing that the sorties took 5 hours to complete throughout the region. As of this morning, nearly all of the targets that have been struck have been within a few hundred yards of the Gulf, with heavy concentrations of targets being located within Bushehr, Bandar Abbas, Chabahar, and Jask, all of which are major naval bases. Most of the Gulf islands have also been struck, with Keshem and Kish islands being targeted heavily this afternoon. Conversely, Iran has conducted their own strikes in Jordan, Bahrain, Qatar, and Kuwait. In Kuwait, Iranian forces have conducted counter-battery fire on American HIMARS missile launcher sites, with multiple ballistic missile strikes taking place at most of the U.S. bases and missile launch sites all day. Analysts comment. Over the past 24 hours, the war in the Middle East has returned to the level of fighting first observed during the height of the war back in March. How long this is planned to continue is unknown, but this is not a slight increase in targeting. The war appears to be fully back on once again. In the United Kingdom, counterterrorism police released more details regarding a high-profile murder case that took place last week. On Thursday, Anne Widdecombe was found murdered in her home in the town of Hayter in Devon. After her murder was discovered, local authorities immediately referred the case to counterterrorism, and one suspect has already been arrested in conjunction with this case. The suspect has been charged for the murder, and as of this morning, terrorism offenses have been added to the list of charges. Analysts comment. This case is noteworthy, as most of the information so far indicates this was a political assassination, and the speed at which authorities have immediately declared this to be a terrorism incident is very, very unusual. Widdecombe was a former member of parliament, and in her later years was a familiar conservative political commentator known to weigh in on political issues throughout the nation. More details may or may not come to light in due time regarding the identity of the suspect, but due to the high-profile nature of this murder, this case will be in the headlines for a while. On the home front in Washington, D.C., yesterday a total of 5 New York Times reporters have been subpoenaed to appear before a grand jury to testify regarding their reporting on the alleged security breaches on board the new Air Force One. Last week, President Trump flew to Turkey for the NATO summit on the new airframe, but during the trip, an undisclosed security issue prompted the Secret Service to switch back to the older platform. Analysts comment. The details of exactly what the alleged crimes are have not been disclosed. The New York Times has a history of publishing content which could lead to security issues, but in this case, nothing they wrote in their original report appears to have been classified. However, they did explicitly state that they had a source who had classified knowledge of the defenses, or rather the alleged lack of defenses, on the new Air Force One platform, which is probably why the harsh crackdown on the New York Times. They also made the claim that the new airframe has not had enough time to install the anti-missile countermeasures of the older platform, though no detail on this was provided. Regardless, talking to journalists in any capacity about any of the protection measures used by the White House is a huge no-no, and one of the most sensitive issues that always results in a very heavy-handed response. Analyst comments for this wire. As the war in the Persian Gulf rages on, concerns are growing regarding the apparent widening of the war to include the Red Sea region. The mutual targeting between the Saudis and the Houthis in Yemen has continued to some degree, though it's too soon to tell if either party is committed to turning this into a more protracted fight. If that is the chosen course of action, the situation is likely to get very serious. While the Strait of Hormuz remains a hot war zone that has restricted the flow of about 20 million barrels per day out of the region, the Saudi East-West pipeline system has been working to reduce this deficit by pumping roughly 7 million barrels per day during most of this conflict. This has eased the burden of Hormuz being cut off and has been one of the main factors keeping oil from reaching $200 per barrel. However, this pipeline runs from the Gulf across the desert before terminating in Yanbu at a major oil export terminal. The terminal is within missile range of the Houthis. Somewhat interestingly, there are also very little air defenses in the southern regions of Saudi Arabia, despite the Saudis fighting the Houthis for a couple of decades at this point. Nearly all missile defenses are on the northern coastline or in the vicinity of American bases. So far during this conflict, the Iranians have successfully struck the Yanbu oil terminal using extremely long-range and slow-flying drones. The Houthis have a much higher chance of success in threatening Yanbu, and if they are able to strike this facility, the global oil crisis will go from worse to worst. This concludes The Wire for 1900 Zulu, July 14th, 2026.
Okay, Wire Channel. And I got a 4-minute image funny one here. Well, it's supposed to be funny.
You're drunk! Hey, what's in that shit, man?
Mostly top shelf vodka.
What else?
It's got some calico in it.
Calico? What's calico?
It's cat piss.
Cat piss?
Yeah, my cat drank my vodka.
What?
I had it on the table, and the little fucker drank it.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I had to follow him around with a bottle for 3 days before I got it back.
So we're drinking cat piss? Chuck, what are we gonna do? Mitch is dead.
Same thing we always do. Try and take over the world.
Take over the world?
Exactly. Now hold him steady.
But seriously, Chuck, what are we gonna do? Mitch has been missing for weeks.
So what?
The peasants are asking questions.
Oh, this one's
Let him
like,
ask. Mitch still has work to do.
Work? What work? He's dead.
He's got bills to sign, and we need him to vote no on the SAVE Act.
How in the hell are we supposed to do that? Mitch is dead.
You hear that, Mitch? He wants to know how you're going to sign bills and vote no on the SAVE Act. Have you or someone you know experienced overwhelming anxiety after hearing the words, Happy 4th of July? You may be suffering from idiot.
Idiot. Independence Day induced offense trauma. Common symptoms include
Stolen land!
screaming stolen land at America's 250th birthday, panic attacks over hot dogs, fireworks, or flags,
4th of July is racist!
random outbursts calling 4th of July racist, excessive cable news meltdowns about freedom, general misery during the greatest holiday ever.
Fortunately, real help is finally available. And that help comes in one easy-to-swallow pill called Magasil.
Magasil, the #1 leading patriot prescribed remedy for loving America again. This sucks. I got hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun. Some chick named Alexis Podesta was wearing a wire the whole time. Ashley, it's shower time!
I've been watching this disaster from day one. Fake news, fake investigations under Sleepy Joe, but now the truth is out.
My chief of staff ratted me out. My son Hunter is the smartest person I know. They got my wife's taxes and everything. I married my son's babysitter.
The FBI wires, the guilty pleas, the whistleblowers. Gavin Newsom is finished. Have you ever had to lie to a country, Mrs. Gabbard?
No, sir.
Ever balanced global alliances while funding gain-of-function research and used follow the science to control the narrative?
No, sir.
Ever had to make calls that kept Democrats safe while filling your bank account with taxpayer money and big pharma grants?
No, sir.
My team always followed orders, Mrs. Gabbard. They followed orders, or the lockdowns failed. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Are we clear?
Crystal.
I want to give out free money. I want to give out free health care. I want to give out free rent.
You'll give out everything for free, and the taxpayers will pay for it and like it.
Okay, comrades, are you ready to order? How much for some fire water?
How much is it for a lamb sandwich?
Everything's free. How is everything free?
what do you mean by that there,
Haven't you listened to anything I've said?
Bernie?
Sorry, I was thinking about a goat.
This free fire water is amazing.
This free sandwich tastes so good.
Everything free tastes good.
Oh no, there's no garbage can. What do I do?
We're in New York. Throw it on the ground. Be a man. Listen, mister, I'm getting awful tired of your stuff. I'm getting tired of your fraud. Now jerk that pistol and go to work. I said throw down, boy. You gonna do something? Or just stand there and cry?
Paul, look out! Is the alcohol okay?
Hey, man, am I driving okay?
You're parked, Paul.
What was in that shit, man? I never had no booze like that in my life.
Settle down, Paul. You're freaking out.
I drank a lot of shit before, but I never had no shit like that before.
Drink this, man. It will mellow you out.
I've been drinking since I was 2. I'll drink this whole bottle.
Oh, no, don't drink that.
Huh?
I almost gave you the wrong shit.
But I already drank it.
I hope you don't have any plans for a month.
What are you talking about? What did I just drink?
Tumble and save on insurance with Liberty Bibbity.
It's bundle.
Why am I tumbling?
No idea.
Keep away? For the ultras?
Okay, that was just image like goofy one there. Just be respectful, please, Barry. I never met you before, so thank you for coming in.
That the driver was told multiple times to stop and get out of his car, and instead he rammed toward the officer. Let me ask you a question. Serious question. This year alone, there have been 600 fatal shootings by police officers, regular police officers.
18 minutes and
Why haven't we heard about any of those? Why hasn't there been this type of outrage by Democrats included for all of the American citizens who have had their lives taken? And let me say something else. This is awful what happened. Awful. I don't ever want to see this happen. This is why I advocate against sanctuary cities. Because if the officers were allowed, or if the ICE agents, were allowed to go into the jails and pick up people like they're supposed to, like they want to, by the way, like states like Virginia are refusing. They're saying, no, you can't go into our jails. So they have no choice but to go out into the community where people can do things like this, and it puts people at risk. You want to know what was said to me my entire life by teachers, parents, and this was just common knowledge until 5 minutes ago? If you ever encounter an officer of any kind where you're told what to do, you do what they tell you. And if anything happens, you take the badge number and you take it up that way. But you follow orders in the moment. Again, that was common knowledge until 5 minutes ago, when I see my liberal friends literally encouraging people to go out and not follow instructions. Do you know that incidents against these ICE officers are up like 600%? Do you have any idea the amount of threats and things like that they get? They have no idea what they're dealing with, but I totally agree. It is awful. It is very awful, and it should stop. It should. Oh, and by the way, sorry, I didn't finish that one point. The reason we were told that growing up is because the adults in our lives cared about us and wanted to teach us how to be in society and be safe and be smart. That's why, because they cared about us. I've worked with teenagers. I worked with at-risk teens who are very likely to get into altercations with authority figures. I would never tell them to not listen to officers, or I would say, no, you need to follow instructions. And if something happens, oh, we know. There's a lot of leftist lawyers who will jump on any of this in a heartbeat. So you're good in that department. But no, in sanctuary cities, allow them to go into safe places to pick the people up they need to pick up. Stop encouraging people to do these things, and have common sense closed borders. Multiple.
So I guess there was a big shooting there in Maine there the other day. Okay, this is the sky look, you guys. The sky look.
2026, Cincinnati, Ohio. I mean, we're looking into the northeast over there, into the west northwest right there. I kind of missed it, but it's okay.
We'll skip that one. Sorry, guys. That wasn't very good.
refuse to answer, and I want to be honest with you about why. A lot of the coverage of my work with Reckoning Action has been positioning us almost as a direct comparison to, or even as competition to, the Me Too movement. So a lot of reporters approach it that way and ask me what we think the Me Too movement got wrong or what we're going to do differently to avoid the backlash that they got. So I want to get one thing straight. I reject the premise of that question because this is not a new Me Too movement. This is not something that is resulting from the failures of those that came before us. We are building on a strong foundation, a trail that was blazed by Sharona Burke and her incredible team and all of the women who came before us. The next point that I make is that we shouldn't be putting the blame on the Me Too movement for the backlash that they received. Any movement that's built to dismantle an institution of power that exists on the subjugation of others, as treating a whole other sect of the population as second-class citizens, is going to get some backlash from those who don't want to give up that power. So the last point that I make is that the fact that the Me Too movement or our work generates backlash is not a sign of failure. It's actually a sign of success. We have to prepare for it, absolutely. But if structures of power aren't being threatened by our work, then we're not being disruptive enough. So if you read or see interviews of me where I'm rejecting the premise of a question, it's probably that one, and that's why. There's a question I've been asked quite frequently in interviews lately that I've refused to.
Is this your first time in chat? Bites, Bernice, welcome, and we'd like to know what state you're from.
Temporarily suspended traffic stops for immigration enforcement after two fatal shootings within the same week. President Trump has reversed his plan to charge a 20% fee on cargo moving through the Strait of Hormuz. Trump said the U.S. will instead pursue trade and investment deals with Gulf countries while still keeping the shipping restrictions on Iranian ships in place. U.S. Central Command says it will restart its naval blockade today at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Health officials in Michigan say lettuce and other salad greens are a possible source of the state's cyclosporiasis outbreak. Inflation cooled more than expected in June, with consumer prices down from 4.2% in May, but rising 3.5% from a year earlier. The drop was driven partly by easing gas prices amid the U.S.-Iran negotiations, though renewed fighting and higher oil prices could reverse some of that relief. Supreme Court Justices Elena Kagan and Amy Coney Barrett made a rare appearance before a House Appropriations panel to support the court's request for more security funding amid a rise in threats against the justices and their families. And President Trump signed two proclamations shrinking two Utah national monuments. Grand Staircase Escalante from about 1.87 million acres to 181,500 acres, and Bear Ears from about 1.36 million acres to 121,100 acres. For more on these stories and more unbiased news generally, be sure to check out Unbiased Politics. And
yeah, there's another good reporter there. I think I got like 5 or 6 ladies that did a good job on TikTok. Okay, I got an interesting one, you guys. 4 minutes. 4 minutes. This might be pretty good.
Venus, not Venus, right? Seems to be a common trend with everything these days. The deception. Like, okay, whatever, you want us to think this is Venus. Most people will accept it, but I'm not accepting anything that they tell us these days, you guys. So let's just snap on the telephoto lens so we can get closer and see if we can get a little more detail. And, oh, look at that. It looks just like those orbs that I video. So, orb, Venus, planet, whatever. Let's just look at this. And then we're going to hit it with a laser pointer just for fun. All right. Look at these faces. It's pretty crazy stuff. Changes every frame. Now let's hit it with the laser pointer for fun. All right, we're gonna pause it here in a second. I just wanted you to see this. Kind of some cool shadows showing up. Who knows, right? At this point.
What do you think?
But the biggest thing I want you to notice what I'm hitting it with the laser pointer is, why is the laser pointer not continuing past the orb, if that's what you want to call it? But this is not a round thing floating in the sky. This is, in my opinion, a lit up circle. Ooh, yeah, look at that too, right? In my opinion, all it is just a lit up circle sitting up there pretending to be a planet on a screen in our fake simulated sky. Hunger Games, Truman Show, Matrix, all of those, right? If you want to call it the firmament, cool. We don't have to agree on everything. We just have to all point out the deception, and you can see the deception for yourself. Just grab one of these on Amazon. Set your phone. You need a good tripod, because the tripod that comes with it is terrible. Set your phone to 4K, 60 frames a second. You might want to lower the exposure just a little bit so you get a good picture. But just go out and look at your star map and then zoom in close on anything.
Thanks, Bernie. Yeah, I've been doing it for 6 years. I have over 1 million views and got a lot of support. I lost my parents 2 years ago, and I helped out a lot of people for doing this. I never gave up. I stuck it through since 2020, and even when I lose my parents and stuff. So this is family here now. So got a lot of family support in here, and we're here to the end. Appreciate the support. And Intel is free. You don't have to pay nothing.
That says it's a planet. See what you see. You're gonna see the same stuff. And then, I really hope the level of deception that we're dealing with is starting to set in for you guys, because it's next level, and they will go through. They'll do whatever they can to gaslight you. Get yourself one of those zoom lenses. You can see everything I'm showing you for under $300 all in. And a lot of you are much better at video editing than me. So let's get after it and ruin their party. Have a good day.
That was okay. I'll try to get a few more shorts in before we do 2 18-minute Billy, and then we'll get to 45-minute Mel and Holly.
Trump will be making a speech to the nation on Thursday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And then today, the White House posted trust in Trump, no panikins. And the Department of War today posted trust the plan. Many of us have it on good authority that President Trump this Thursday will be talking about the massive and unprecedented fraud in the 2020 election. We have been waiting for this moment for so long.
That one tomorrow night, guys.
Stop doubting President Trump. Stop doubting this plan. It is amazing what is coming. It also said next week, boom, boom, boom. This is our time, and we are taking back this republic, and all of this is coming to the surface. 2020 is not over. Do not give up, because what's coming is the hammer of justice. Let's go.
I just found that lady on Telegram. One there. Keep an eye on her. Chico, no. Very hot.
National Fraud Enforcement Division at the Department of Justice. Our goal is to protect taxpayer dollars and stop the brazen thievery of America's wealth and generosity. In the last 98 days, the Department of Justice has announced over 900 major fraud enforcement actions across the country, including cases targeting billions of taxpayer dollars supporting Medicaid, Medicare, SNAP benefits, unemployment benefits, education benefits, and more. Today, alongside the Department of Homeland Security and other federal partners, we are announcing an extraordinary enforcement milestone in a new frontier of fraud enforcement. That is trade and customs fraud. In less than 1 year since its launch, the Trade Fraud Task Force, which is now a permanent force within our fraud division, has officially surpassed $1 billion in criminal and civil recoveries, penalties, forfeitures, and charged losses. For too long, bad actors seeking to exploit the American economy have decided that ignoring and violating U.S. customs laws is a business risk worth taking. Those days are over. Trade fraud schemes impose severe financial consequences to the United States, depriving the country of billions of dollars every year. These fraud schemes threaten our national and economic security, steal from taxpayers, undermine American businesses, fund foreign adversaries, introduce hazardous goods into our markets, and exploit modern-day slavery. The Fraud Division and the Trade Fraud Task Force are laser-focused on these schemes and will continue to bring the weight of the department to bring bad actors to justice.
Okay, big news there. So Lucy, remember what you were saying about the speech, so I'm going to try. I don't know, I might not be able to. I think we just do the one show tomorrow. We can watch it on our own tomorrow night. Be too late.
Coming out. But from what's already out there, it's clear that this man was executed the same way that Renee Good was in broad daylight. This is the second use of lethal force by ICE agents in less than a week. This comes as the Trump administration has been trying to soften ICE's image in the public ahead of the midterm elections. Polling started to show that even those who were originally in favor of his promise of mass deportations couldn't stomach seeing their community members slain in the streets. So while their most brutal operations are mostly now confined to detention centers outside of the public view, they are still operating with the same level of cruelty and disregard for the value of human life that they always have been. Will we get a meaningful investigation of what happened here? Likely not. I imagine that the administration will similarly cover this one up and try to sweep it under the rug. What's within our power now is to amplify the truth that ICE has not softened, they have not reformed, they are still abusing their power to harass, intimidate, and even execute members of our community in the streets. Images and videos of the fatal ICE shooting in Maine are still coming out, but from
said that all these things, the mail-in ballot, we don't have to prove that anymore. There is enough evidence to show that these processes should never be in place, even if we didn't have all the proof that we have in Mesa County Report 1, 2, and 3 from 5 years ago. We have enough to show that these processes, these machines, the registration database that David Becker with SEER and all of that they can't be trusted. So if a process and a mechanism of recording the people's vote accurately can't be trusted, it has to be gone away. It has to be thrown away, and new processes implemented. And they're very simple. The process is to replace these machines and these processes is very simple. People try to make it sound too difficult and too complicated.
Hey, Tina Peters, ladies. I got two more short ones. I can't remember if we just played that second one or not. This is their
most effective union leaders the country has seen in the last 50 years. The implications are huge, so here's what you need to know. In 2023, Shawn Fain ran the Stand Up Strike, a totally new strategy that blindsided GM, Ford, and Stellantis, and won the UAW's first decisive victory since the 1980s. Months later, his union won Volkswagen's Chattanooga plant by a 73-27 margin after decades of failed Southern organizing. That's the most successful labor campaign in half a century. Unions are one of the last real structural checks on oligarchy, not an aloof legislative body, an organized block of workers who can shut down production. Fain has been lining up contract expirations across unions for a potential general strike in May 2028, and that's the kind of power that makes billionaires nervous. Now, this DOJ investigation didn't come out of nowhere. Officially, it's about internal allegations involving favoritism for Fain's fiance, but this really all traces back to a 2024 blowup between Fain and Monitor Neil Barofsky over the UAW's ceasefire resolution on Gaza. Barofsky is the union's federal monitor, an outside attorney with the power to trigger DOJ scrutiny. Fain says clearly, quote, Neil Barofsky has a political grudge against me because the UAW took an anti-war stance. Around the same time as the blowup over the ceasefire resolution, one of Fain's own vice presidents, Rich Boyer, started positioning himself as a rival, and this fall, he's actually running against Fain for the union presidency. Fain supporters say Boyer is one of the sources whose complaints fed the Monitor's most damaging reports. So now you've got a politically motivated federal monitor, a rival with every incentive to keep allegations alive right before an election he wants to win, and a DOJ under an administration that has no love for organized labor. And it's working. The union has already lost organizing votes in Alabama and Illinois since this infighting kicked off. Momentum it cannot afford to lose 2 years out from a general strike. This isn't just UAW drama, it's what it looks like when labor gets powerful enough to actually threaten the people at the top. We all need...
Okay, we got 2 more short ones. That's our regular one that we play every day. A lot of good reporters out there. This one's under 2 minutes.
As you can be. He said the safest you will be.
You guys hear it?
Vocal and visible as you can be. Do you remember that now? And so that's what I've lived by. I haven't been afraid. I haven't backed down. And I've been pretty vocal. And visible. And, I see great things happening for us. And
how was your lunch with the president?
My lunch with the president was amazing. We were right in the little 4-top table right beside the Oval Office with the news on the big screen. And I was sitting right beside our great president. I was very honored that he heard what I had to say about our elections. And he's going to do something about it. Yeah. So I'm very grateful, Peter was there, he was sitting beside me, and then we had another guest across from us. So thank you so much. Thank you for this amazing award. It just took me almost 2 years in prison. But it's been worth it. I will have to say it's been worth it because the awareness of people that this caused was beyond the pale. So thank you.
Only takes one. Thank you so much.
Okay, that was a short one. Let's see where else I got. Okay, we're going to start on first Billy Bean, you guys. 2 Billy Beans and the 45-minute Polly.
Fight to lower costs and stand firm to protect the Second Amendment. Vote Andrew Beeler for State Senate.
If it is invalid, we promise a tenfold refund. This denture can be successfully worn in just 1 second and is suitable for everyone. Whether you have complete teeth, partial missing teeth, or...
Welcome to Truth by Billy Bean, a flash update, July 14,
2026. Time in Texas about 4 p.m. Iran sinks a ship. The Dems have gone commie. The U.S. military is once again slapping Iran. And a developing story. China, up to its eyeballs in the 2020 U.S. coup, is now prepping for a coup in Russia. So let's get started. So we have this coming out from U.S. Intel. This just happened. Iran has sank a ship near the Strait of Hormuz, near the port of Bandar Abbas, which indicates the ship was taking the route out of the Strait of Hormuz that Iran sanctioned, and yet Iran fired upon this ship. The ship is flagged out of small islands, St. Kitts and Nevis. It was a bulk carrier named Lunai. The Iran fired upon the ship with an anti-ship missile, splitting the ship apart, and it sank. This happened a little while ago, July 14. The ship sustained catastrophic hull damage. And we have that the Lunai was going to UAE, a port, Jebel Ali. The crew has been rescued, not by Iran, certainly not.
To your family.
We see the crazies in Iran going full stop, hitting ships with missiles to sink them. So what can we say? Escalating. We see Iran escalating attacks on ships. So that's going on. We have this also. Iran hates Iraq. So the President Trump invited the new prime minister from Iraq, Ali al-Sadi. He's visiting in the White House today. President Trump had endorsed him as a candidate. And it's believed the U.S. will grow much closer to Iraq. And the U.S. currently has military bases in Iraq. So that's going on. We have this from Stephen Gardner. Now, under Tulsi Gabbard as the head of the National Intel Group, she visited and went with a team of FBI experts to Fulton County, Georgia, a few months ago to secure voter records.
They've been lined up here for hours. These are precious people who are hungry, and they have nothing. If someone...
Once the FBI got this information, it was 40 boxes, I believe, from Fulton County, Georgia. Now, the FBI is surging 200 FBI agents directly into Fulton County, Georgia, to begin voter fraud investigation. So that's going on. We have this. We have that. Now, I put out information this morning that President Trump would address the nation Thursday night at 9 p.m. And I believe I heard this information on Fox, that in this talk, he would advise the U.S. people of at least 3 foreign nations who had tried to interfere in the U.S. presidential election 2020. And I speculated on who the nations would be. Now it's coming out from Stephen Gardner that this had been a leak from within President Trump's own team at the White House. That no additional information was to be coming out about what he would talk about Thursday night. So that's going on. Now, as I put out, what I received was he would identify 3 nations who had participated in the 2020 U.S. coup. I speculated one of these nations would be China. It has been my position since 2020 that many nations were involved in that U.S. presidential coup of 2020 and that it had been orchestrated by China. I believe now it's good to begin to think of China as being a predator nation. And now we have Enforcer coming out with this new information, a developing story, that inside China, they are prepping for a coup in Russia to take down President Putin. We see China once again identifying itself as a predator nation. So that's going on. We have this from Breitbart. We see the Dem predators inside the U.S., the Dem political party, the Dem Socialist Party, going commie. I believe they've already gone, and that many of these younger people in the Dem political party are absolutely communist, Marxist, and so on. And I believe their primary leader is the mayor of New York City, Danny. So that's going on. Sources are also coming out that Breitbart is identifying that 51% of the Dem Socialist Party are full stop communists or Marxist right now. So that's going on. And as I've said before, if you are still self-identifying as a Dem, the question I have is why? I mean, you could register simply as an independent. So that's going on. And we have this. Yeah. And many of the large Dem donors are not going to give money to what appears to be a Dem crazy platform coming out. Do away with the police, do away with the U.S. military, do away with the U.S. Constitution, open the borders, and so on. So that's going on. And we have this. President Trump is identifying the U.S. as becoming the guardian of the Strait of Hormuz. He said today that the 20% charge for the U.S. military maintaining open international waterways in the Persian Gulf, Strait of Hormuz, will be investment coming to the U.S. from the Middle East countries. That sounds reasonable to me. So that's going on. We have this from Ward Carroll.
Have you ever wanted to see your home from space? With this free satellite Earth Maps tool, you can zoom right.
The U.S. is becoming U.S. military, it appears, in a future time will become the guardians of the Strait of Hormuz. And that we had yesterday, the U.S. military, I believe, the greatest military in the history of the world, on July 13, hitting 300 Iranian targets in a 5-hour mission. The hits on Iran came from the land and the sea and involved the USS Carrier Lincoln and the Carrier Bush, many U.S. destroyers, U.S. bases in Jordan and Bahrain, along with the newly used U.S. weapon water drones. We have this from Enforcer. So the U.S. has begun another hit on Iran this afternoon, July 14. And the U.S. yesterday, July 13, made many hits on the island of Kish. One of their military targets was to hit Iran speedboats. The U.S. hit the speedboats that were docked in a port area on the island of Kish. Adjacent to this port area was the Kish power plant and water desalination that sustained some damage from the U.S. hit on the speedboats. We have this going on. I believe this happened yesterday. So we have Russia and Estonia having a lake between them. And on Russia's part of the lake yesterday, Russia did a live fire drill. Estonia is saying that Russia didn't warn them. So that's going on. And yes, Enforcer says China preps for the overthrow of Putin. And as I've mentioned, we saw China heavily involved in the U.S. coup in 2020. So what's new for China? China is now being identified as a predator nation. And we have this, that China's CCP is trying to identify who will succeed Putin so it can cozy up. Maybe they believe they have enough money to buy the successor to Putin. Now, this runs contrary to other information that President Putin is very popular in Russia, but that the Russian people now want Russia to declare war on Ukraine. Take it out of the status of being a military operation and go straight to war. So that's going on. And we have this. We have, yes, yesterday we also saw Saudi Arabia hitting, yesterday Saudi Arabia hit inside Yemen, the airport, to take down an Iran plane. Saudi Arabia missed, and the Iran plane landed later at another airport in Yemen. Then we saw last night Yemen firing on Saudi Arabia right over its border to hit a Saudi Arabia airport. Today, we see Saudi Arabia launching recon drones over Iran. It's speculated maybe Saudi Arabia's military wants to identify some targets. So that's going on. And we have this from Military Summary. So we saw in the last 24 hours, Russia hitting in Ukraine, the port Odessa, with Russia hitting up to 10 ships and vessels and other locations, carrying supplies to the Ukraine military and also carrying oil and lubricant to the Ukraine military. So Russia made those hits last night on Odessa. And we also saw last night Russia hitting Kiev with drones and Iskander missiles, hitting Ukraine locations of vehicles and drones and missiles. Another location near Odessa that Russia hit last night also was of many vehicles Russia believed Ukraine was using to transport drone launchers. We have today, well, yesterday, Zelensky went to France. He's still in France. And the EU puts out that the EU militaries are going to begin military drills very soon in Poland and Moldova. And we know Moldova is not a NATO country. And we have this. We're hearing that Russia is prepping a massive drone strike on Ukraine, and that Russia has pre-positioned 2,000 drones. And some sources say that could happen tonight. We also saw last night Ukraine hitting more ships and tankers in the Sea of Azov, a flotilla that Russia had put together to resupply the civilians in Crimea. So that's going on. This concludes my flash. I love you, and I'll see you soon.
Okay, we got the first one in. We got two more big ones here, second Billy and 45 Holly, but have anybody seen the new passport? I got that one on a couple others before I do the second Billy. Can't get that one. Oh, I'll play this. This one's kind of a good one here, you guys. Pretty scary there.
Nothing can stop what is coming. Nothing can stop what is coming. Nothing can stop what is coming. Nothing can stop what is coming.
All right, I guess I'll do this. I'm going to do this 4-minute one here, you guys.
Nothing can stop.
Oh, wait, here it is. I guess that's the new passport. Okay, I got a 4-minute one, then we'll get to Billy in a second. A 1,000 views on this one.
Pluto looks close to home. Its name is Sedna, and Sedna is not interesting because it is big, bright, or dangerous. It is interesting because its orbit looks like evidence. Sedna was discovered in 2003 by Mike Brown, Chad Trujillo, and David Rabinowitz. At the time, it was about 90 astronomical units from the sun. 1 astronomical unit is the distance from Earth to the sun, about 93 million miles. So Sedna was roughly 90 times farther from the sun than Earth is. But the strange part is not just the distance. The strange part is where Sedna refuses to go. Even at its closest point to the sun, Sedna stays around 76 astronomical units away. Neptune orbits at about 30 astronomical units. Pluto's average distance is about 39 astronomical units. So Sedna's closest approach is still far beyond them. That matters because many icy worlds beyond Neptune have orbits shaped by Neptune's gravity. Sedna is different. It stays so far out that Neptune alone cannot easily explain why its orbit is so stretched. This is why scientists often describe Sedna as a detached object, and possibly a member of the inner Oort cloud. It is not just another normal Kuiper Belt object. It is something stranger. Sedna's orbit is enormous. One trip around the sun takes roughly 11,000 years. That means the last time Sedna was near the same part of its orbit, human civilization had not built cities, writing did not exist, and early farming was only beginning to change our species. Now think about what that means. Sedna may be carrying a frozen memory from the early solar system. Scientists are still investigating what placed it on such an extreme path. One possibility is that the young sun formed in a crowded cluster of stars, and a passing star disturbed Sedna's orbit long ago. Another possibility is that an undiscovered distant planet helped shape the orbits of objects like Sedna. Or Sedna may belong to a hidden population of icy bodies between the Kuiper Belt and the far more distant Oort cloud. None of those explanations is confirmed, but the orbit is real, and that is what makes Sedna so revealing. It behaves like a clue left at the edge of the solar system. When Hubble observed Sedna, scientists did not find the large moon some had expected. That made the mystery deeper, because a moon had been one possible explanation for Sedna's unusual rotation. Then the James Webb Space Telescope added another layer. Sedna is not just a frozen red dot. Webb observations found signs of molecules such as ethane, acetylene, ethylene, water ice, and possibly carbon dioxide on its surface. These are clues about ancient ice, radiation, and chemistry in one of the coldest known regions of the solar system.
Interesting one.
So Sedna is not a monster hiding in the dark. It is more revealing than that. Sedna is a fossil world, a distant witness, a body whose orbit may preserve evidence from a time before Earth became a living planet. And recently, astronomers found another Sedna-like object called 2023 KQ14, nicknamed Ammonite. Its orbit does not line up neatly with some earlier expectations, which means the outer solar system may be more complicated than one simple hidden planet story. That is the real thrill of Sedna. It reminds us that the solar system is not fully mapped. We know the 8 planets. We know Pluto, but beyond them, there may be a hidden architecture of frozen worlds, old gravitational scars, and missing history. So the question is not just, what is Sedna? The bigger question is, what happened out there? If Sedna's orbit was shaped by something we have not found yet, what sounds more likely to you? A passing star, a hidden planet, or a lost event from the sun's birth? Stick around, because the farther we look beyond Pluto, the less the solar system looks empty, and the more it looks like it is still hiding evidence. There is an object in our
A science video there, I guess you call it. Okay, the second Billy Bean. And then we'll get the last big one with Bell. Then some short ones after.
But it completely transforms.
Welcome to Truth by Billy Bean. Today's date, July 14, 2026, time in Texas, about 1 p.m. And thanks for like, subscribe, and share, and especially for hitting the like button. That really helps my channel. Thank you so much. Some of the things we'll cover today. Congress wants Fauci bioweapon lab closed. And a joint DOD Department of War, and DOJ task force to identify and prosecute classified leaks. And President Trump, it's believed Thursday night, will release the identity of at least 3 nations involved in the presidential coup of 2020. And the U.S. military, in a 5-hour mission, has worked to destroy Iran. So let's get started. So we have this from Breitbart. So we saw 4 New York Times journalists being investigated now for their release of classified information regarding security devices and capabilities on the Red, White, and Blue Air Force One. President Trump flew to Turkey for the NATO summit. They're now being, subpoenas have been issued for these 4 New York Times journalists regarding the release of classified information about the plane. And that followed the FBI asking the New York Times not to publish it. But they did anyway. So yesterday, July 13, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth announced a joint task force now being put together between the Department of War and the DOJ to identify and prosecute journalists and other sources who release sensitive information. So that's going on. It'll be, I will follow what happens to the 4 New York Times journalists with regard to this matter. We have this, and this information also came out from the New York Post, as well as Breitbart. Breitbart also brings out that a recent resolution put forth on the floors of Congress by Representative Paul Gosar, asking the Department of Health and Human Services, and a part of HHS is the National Institute of Health. And Dr. Fauci was the head of NIH for 40 plus years and spearheaded the illegal positioning, aiding and abetting a bioweapons lab located in the, at Rocky Mountain Lab in Montana. So Paul Gosar is asking HHS to close the illegal bioweapons lab that has been engaging in such things as manufacturing the COVID-19 virus, the mRNA shot for the COVID-19, and continues research illegally on samples smuggled illegally into the U.S. of monkeypox virus, and also engaging in illegal juicing up, making a bioweapon of the Congo Ebola virus, and also working with other dangerous bat viruses. I say to Congress, bioweapons labs have been illegal in the U.S. for many decades. And that was one reason that Fauci sent to the Wuhan lab in China the COVID-19 bioweapon virus to work on in China. So that's going on. And we have this. From a Patriot subscriber. Now, I recently put out information that came out from Celeste Salome that we have a new compensation act for individuals who had been virtually turned into vegetables by the Havana syndrome. The use of radio frequencies and microwaves. It initially begun at the U.S. Embassy in Havana, Cuba. But at any rate, it had affected U.S. military and U.S. government. And the compensation bill, $3 million, is to pay for lifetime care. So I have a military veteran as one of my Patriot subscribers who says, where is the compensation for U.S. military vets who have health issues from the anthrax shot they received in the military? And I would say that's an excellent question. We have this from Fox.
Are you ready to feel good about your body? LifeMD can help. Get started at lifemd.com.
Some wireless companies say that they stand for something. What exactly do they stand for, and why won't they say it out?
That came on this morning. President Trump will address the nation Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to talk about the presidential coup of 2020 that took place in the U.S. and identify 3 foreign nations that were directly involved. And I speculate, would these 3 nations be Venezuela, Cuba, and Iran? Or could they be Russia, China, and Iran? Or could they be other nations, including Serbia, Canada, and Italy? We'll see. And we have this, that the U.S. military last night engaged in a 5-hour mission to destroy Iran's ability to fire upon ships in the Strait of Hormuz. We have from Max Afterburner that the U.S. military used at least 5,000-pound bunker buster bombs last night, hitting IRGC locations in several cities. And we have also that President Trump wants to go after Pickaxe Mountain, believed possibly to be the location of Iran's enriched uranium. So that's going on. And we have CENTCOM putting out videos beginning last night. After the mission last night began at 4:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and ended about 10:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The U.S. hit Sirak, Bandar Abbas, Chabahar, and many other locations, all to destroy Iran's ability to fire upon ships in the Strait of Hormuz. And we have this, that the U.S. military also fired HIMARS and ATACMS from Bahrain and Kuwait. And that the U.S. also hit near Bashir nuclear power plant. The U.S. is targeting near the nuclear power plant, Bashir City, IRGC military headquarters. So that's going on. And we have this. We have also from U.S. Intel that the U.S. yesterday, about 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, put into the air F-22s from the Fairford base located in the UK. And that President Trump then published on social media showing B-2 planes, stealth planes, and also B-1B planes lighting up the skyline. It's believed this was a message from President Trump that these strategic bombers would be used. And we have this. The U.S. heavily also hit Kish Island near the Strait of Hormuz, an IRGC location. They heavily hit Kish and made a hit on the Kish airport and also on IRGC speedboats. So that's going on. And we have this. The two ships the Iran hit on yesterday were near the UAE and 40 nautical miles into the Gulf of Oman, included UAE vessels, the Mombasa and the Bafi. On the Mombasa that Iran hit.
My son smells too fresh and he's
Now,
too
Holly, watch
nice.
the video. Now.
With anti-ship missiles, one crew member has been killed and 8 have been seriously injured. And this was done by Iran without warning, with missiles. We have this from Tusi TV. It appears the IRGC is so out of money that they are going into Iranian citizens' bank accounts and taking all their money. They are cutting off pensions to retired individuals and stealing money from the pension fund, and also taking money from Iranian businesses. So the IRGC appears to be broke. We have this from U.S. Intel today, July 14. The U.S. military began hitting Iran yesterday at 4:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And President Trump also did not reveal that the U.S. military was going to hit Iran until about 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, when he announced on his Truth social media platforms, "We will hit Iran tonight." And then we have about 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time that Iran began to hit back. So I guess the U.S. military was making hits for about 2 hours before Iran responded. And that Iran also hit U.S. bases in Bahrain and also in Jordan. And that Iran had hit 2 UAE vessels, as I've named the vessels, but Iran hit these vessels 40 nautical miles off of the Gulf of Oman, clearly outside the area of Iran territory. We have this. President Trump also announcing the U.S. will take out Pickaxe Mountain. And it's being put forth that Pickaxe Mountain, the uranium, it's believed, is 100 meters deep. several tens of feet deep under a mountain of granite. And some are speculating that perhaps the U.S. will use tactical nukes to take out Pickaxe Mountain. Others say that the U.S. will simply drop a bunker buster, maybe up to 30,000 pounds, to crush the face and entrance into Pickaxe Mountain. So it's good to be in prayer for America, President Trump, U.S. military, world peace, and world health. I love you, and I'll see you soon.
So you guys, did that sound like two different ones? I hope those were, she had two of them out. One was 16 minutes, and then the second one was 15 minutes. I'm hoping I didn't play those twice.
Embrace this new phase. Starting at
thing
age 9, ask their doctor about HPV vaccination.
Limoncello, crafted the Italian way with real fruit juice. San Pellegrino Ciao, with love, Italy.
Hi, everybody. I am Holly Celiano, and I have my guest back, Mel. Welcome, Mel. It's been a month, and welcome to have you back.
It is always a pleasure to be back here with you, Holly, and there is a lot going on.
There is. We're shaking and moving. We don't have going on what people want to hear. The RVs happen. That's what they're all waiting for. But there is a lot of things going on that's moving towards that. So let's talk about we'll start with the 4th of July that we just had in America. Our 250th anniversary, and no RV, Mel. It didn't happen.
Oh, geez. Why does that not kind of surprise us? I think both of us said it wasn't going to be an RV. We both had different perspectives, but we didn't actually focus on the fact that it was going to be an RV release, so to speak. You know, I talked about the technologies being released, and boy, we're still seeing some more technologies coming out. And of course, as you know, as we progress, it's another one that we have these high expectations. And I always say to people, you know, hop off the roller coaster ride for just a minute, enjoy the experience, and then come back down and let's talk about some more fundamentals, because they are certainly keeping us in good stead. You know, we are seeing so many things happening in the banking sector. This is all, of course, got to do with the setting up of our currencies to be revalued. And boy, we have some exciting happenings around Iraq and that today, though, I believe, as well. So looking forward to that. So
we have determined from all the news that America's debt was paid off, which was our 250th anniversary. That was the big thing to celebrate. America debt-free. Next will be us being debt-free. We're just going to follow suit. Have you had any further information that you get from your sources about that?
Well, let's go back to what we talked about last time. We talked about being able to substantiate that the governments, oh, wait a minute, was that our debt that we were talking about? We talked about JP Morgan, of course, and the tier ones and the bonds being paid out within those tier one banks, which could substantiate that the possibility of the governments, and as you just said, Holly, the actual debt being paid off. Now, that seems to be the accuracy of all of that. We believe from the sources, RBA, here in Australia, the same thing. There's like this, another door has closed for the RBA to integrate with
I want to make this the last one, you guys, and I'll save the rest for tomorrow. I got 3 Patriot Princess and stuff. I'll save those for tomorrow. I had a lot of long videos today.
The banks through technology. So if they're closing doors, then you can actually say that it is believed that the governments have been paid, and of course they are the tier ones. What's interesting is when you focus on the fact that now we're starting to see some interesting movement, the silver certificates, sorry, not the gold certificates, but the silver certificates have now been signed as well. Now that's a pretty big thing to be announced. And considering that the silver is going to back what we call the gold standard or the asset-backed standard, these have been part of those bonds in tier 1 that we have been waiting for as well. So for me, having the silver certificates signed off, these are the old notes in that sector, are also going to be part of the revaluation. So Holly, I'm going to say a big tick that the governments have been signing in the background. We do not see fundamental movement at this point, but I think there's a lot of signing, and I think there's going to be a lot of signing going on when the Prime Minister of Iraq arrives as well. They are going to be the father of the currency, remembering that, the father of the dollar, so to speak. So this particular movement that we're expecting is going to be the most important of all trips to Washington, D.C. So as for the movement of tier 1, as I said, they're still finalising that. I don't believe any funds have been released at this point in time, only because, as I said, we only just got word that the silver certificates are ready to be released, as in they will pay those out as bonds as well. So there's still a lot of movement going on.
You said somebody is signing the silver certificates. Who's signing the silver certificates?
The Treasury.
Okay.
It all depends on who's talking to who, but the Treasury are signing off to say that they are going to accept those silver certificates as payments get released. So I think that's pretty important, don't you think? I think that's pretty big. That's pretty big. So,
yes. And I also think it's really important that the Prime Minister of Iraq is coming here now. He's coming now after we had King Charles here, and that was a whole big signing off ceremony where we were being released. So then we have our big 4th of July celebration where, it's been announced that our debt is paid off, and now Zader's coming here, and we know there's major signing of things behind the scenes, and I'm sure they will go back, and there's 2 more cabinet members that need to be seated. That will get done, and I think then we will start to see the long-awaited Iraqi dinar finally make some forward movement and revalue.
Are you one of the many people who thinks their bad cholesterol is low enough? It may be too high. If your bad cholesterol remains high, it may lead to an increased risk of heart attack or stroke. Ask your doctor if your bad cholesterol is low enough. Visit badcholesterol.com to learn more.
This is ProPlan Behind the Scenes. Watch the ProPlan Fuel for Life campaign now on YouTube.
Well, that's expected to happen around about the 29th. By the time they get back to Iraq, as you said, have the 2 seatings put in place. As you said, there's a lot of signings going on. Well, today's Monday the 13th. We've got a lot of things going on. All of a sudden, I got a frog in my throat. I'm getting a bit excited here. But the thing is, too, is that I believe Trump is expected to sign another executive order So we keep an eye on that one. So I'm sure when that drops tomorrow morning in the wh.gov, then we need to go and study and research that. Is that the one that's linked to the silver certificates, perhaps? We'll wait and see. As I said, as things get signed off, keep an eye on those things in the executive orders, because they certainly start to tie up. And of course, we cannot forget the Save America Act as well in all of this, because the Clarity Act, of course, we're still waiting for that to go through. I think I pointed out on my show that it's expected to go, I think, between the 13th and the 19th as well. So sometime this week or within the next 20 days. So that then brings us up to a couple of other things that could possibly happen. We know in Australia we've never ever had an EBS system or a broadcasting system. Has just been ignited at the end of June, and they're going to be doing testing on the 27th of July. So as I said, the implementation of Iraq coming, again, high expectations, but never expect anything. Because as you said, they have to go back home. There's going to be, I think a lot of the paperwork will be signed, most certainly. And then, of course, the 2 more ministers have to be placed. And then by the time Iraq do all of that, we're looking very, very good towards the end of the month, which kind of takes us almost into August. And then we've always said that in the fall was going to be when it actually happens. Does it go out to that long? There's still a lot that has to be put in place. As we said, you know, the tier 1s and the tier 2s and all of that have to go first. And then, of course, you know, there's still movement, which is fantastic. We just have to sit back and watch the logistics of all of this, so to speak, move out. So we've still got the Clarity Act and bits and pieces still going on. So there's an interesting movements in the Fed now and that as well. So that might just tie in with the metals being released, so to speak. So
moving along with the cryptos, because we were talking about this before we recorded, I had brought on my podcast Friday about Zelle being an online banking app, which is our wallets. Their app is no more, and it is on the banking online. So I know you were saying there's FedNow, and there was another one that you were talking about. Why don't you go into what we were discussing about the crypto?
Yeah. So let's take a couple of steps back. For many, many years when we first started this, Holly, and we were all getting introduced, you know, through different sources to have a look at the lobster wallet, for instance. And what a bit of a tilt of the head on that one. But it was to introduce us to the fact that this is the world of digital blockchain that we were actually going into. And then, as I said, as things progressed from 2012 onwards, in the background, they were using these crypto blockchains, so to speak, for transferring the central banks into the treasury. And in between that, of course, we're going to focus a little bit today on the FedNow, because that's the bridge that they built or created to transfer that wealth from the Federal Reserve into the US Treasury. And during that time, we've actually seen apps. And I actually did mention on my show the other day, we were talking about certain apps being created. And Zelle could possibly be one of those, because it says here, Holly, that the Zelle connects consumers directly through bank apps, and its standalone network banks and credit unions can leverage FedNow rails to facilitate immediate 24/7 transfers. Now let's have a listen to the wording of that. They're talking about Zelle using rails. And I often refer to crypto or digital asset blockchains as railway tracks. So these are the rails that could possibly be that connection. And I've said even on my show the other day that we need to start looking for alternatives because we want to unbank from the bank, so to speak. And Zelle is definitely looking like one of those. So these are your options to bank outside of the bank, and they are bridging into the FedNow, which is linking you to your treasury, which of course is your gold-backed currencies, your stable coins, etc., etc. Now, when we talk about Zelle, we're talking about the retail, the consumer, you and I, doing those transactions which are P2P.
Things can get a little crazy sometimes.
The FedNow is basically, as I said on my digital asset channel, this is the actual banking of that from those big tiers doing what we call the wholesale trading. And that's bank-to-bank transactions, whereas Zelle's coming in on the side of this new railway line, so to speak, for those of us in the retail sector. So this is another one of those tick the box, because this is now allowing us the sovereignty to be able to connect to the US Treasury. Okay, so we have to be connected through these crypto blockchains, which are now classed as digital assets because they're now tokenized or digitalized against assets, that being gold and silver. So Zelle being the app behind the banking scene that you just tap into, they could certainly use Zelle in the background of their own banking app as well, Holly, because it's, you know, everyone talks about this smooth transition. So a lot of these corporations are being integrated into the new banking system as they go more and more digital, and they are utilizing those apps. The apps may not appear for the everyday person anymore, but the actual foundation of that app is still functioning, but behind the actual banking app as well. So we're seeing a lot of these companies coming through, and we're going to be doing a deep dive for everyone on this week, probably on Finance Friday, where we're going to be talking about these digital asset blockchains and the companies or the partners behind the FedNow, because it's very important to understand that with all of the fundamentals, it is showing us that the metals, that being gold, silver, platinum and copper and that, are coming more and more into play. We actually found Metallicus Incorporated, which is a metal blockchain. And that's been also incorporated in the background of the FedNow. So you have to start thinking about the partners of the FedNow being from bank to bank, which is your Federal Reserve into your Treasury. And now we're getting tapped in as us, the consumer, the end user, doing our retail. And they will do that through the retail apps that were being used previously, that of course being Zelle, Cash App. There'll be many, many others, but I'll be leaving the links behind in my channel for people to go and have a look at the partners. And I think Zelle is actually one of those partners that are now partnered inside of FedNow. And this is to give you, the citizens and the people, the access to those stable coins backed by digital assets. So it's getting very, very interesting. Huge fundamentals.
So here's my big question, and maybe you can answer this because I get asked this a lot. So Zelle is for the US. I know they're launching in India by the end of the year, but they're really only in the US. So if that's our wallet, what about other people in other countries that don't have Zelle? What do we tell them? Because it seems like it's so based about the US. And Fed now is our Federal Reserve to our U.S. Treasury. But what about all the other countries?
Well, let's talk about Australia, because I know that one very well, and we're actually working behind the scenes as we speak for those in the UK. So in Australia, we have another one called BEAM, BEEM. And this is the Australian FPOS Association, which is, again, working behind all banks. All banks are linked to the BEAM, because when we talk about FPOS, that's your tap and go transactions that you use. They created this particular app in Australia where it connects you to all the banks, all the credit unions, but instead of you sharing your bank details, you create a QR code or a link that is linked to your bank account, and people just put that link or scan the code and it goes straight into your allocated bank account, but you're not giving people your bank account details.
When your perfect dog needs nutrition for his 5 key systems, try Purina One Whole Body Support.
It's your show, princess.
Will everyone just cool it with that? Listen up to me, team.
Very interesting. Okay. And that's used through the Australian FPOS Association. So they've created an app for all of that called BEAM. In the UK, they still are not 100% sure. I'm going to take myself, I might look like I'm a little cross-eyed at the moment, but I'm going to go in and have a look at the ones we found in the UK. And the one in the UK is actually called, let me have a look. Just once. In the UK, Holly, they're actually using the infrastructure, and internet's going to take a little while to bring it up, the Faster Payment Service, or the FPS, which again is your FPOS facility over in the UK. It's managed by pay.uk. So that's the one that they're going to be using in that situation as well. So again, we're utilising payment systems. So wherever you are across the world, we're going to do the UK this week and identify what their app is going to be. But I think you're right, Holly. I've been saying this for some time. If you haven't got that and you want to start utilising that particular service, you could certainly look at things such as Coinbase, which we have touched on before. Coinbase have actually partnered with that being Ripple and are on the XRP ledger. Now, they are also educating us over on that digital platform, so as that if you hold 200,000 XRP, you can actually loan off that asset, which is your asset, but you can actually loan from that and then replenish that as you trade and things like that as well. So there's many elements that people can find, but for the everyday person who doesn't want to go down that track, you can certainly have a look at what we're going to be doing in the coming weeks in digital assets, where we're actually going to be showing each country around the world what their app is going to be. So it's quite interesting that you bring up Zelle today, and we already have BEAM in Australia. The UK are talking about pay.uk, and other elements of all of that, of course, as I said, is linked to their royalties that are coming through as tariffs as well. So I'm looking forward to doing a big deep dive next Friday on digital assets with Mel. So it's all coming out. It has become a digital world.
It sounds like every single country is going to have their own app, which is linked within the banking system, linking to their treasury. So it's not one universal, like Zelle. It's not a universal app for the entire world. Each country will have their own app. So for all the people that were asking me, well, what do we do in our country? I would say start looking into the apps in your country that's linking your banking with your treasury.
Correct.
And find the name. Like you have Beam in Australia and the one in
Pay.uk.
Right. So it sounds like the US has Zelle. So every country is going to have its own app.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
they're also all interconnected, you know, through central banking and the IMF and all of that.
That's correct. And just reminding people that that's the reason why we went to this quantum system, was to be all together on the same level playing field, with the messaging service, that being ISO 222 compliant. So that's your messaging system that connects us. And of course, and then we talked about the...
Welcome, Peter. I don't know what you're... They just like to listen to the video. We talk. Just please be respectful. Thank you. Thanks for coming in.
New Web 3. So the Web 3 is, of course, your level 3 web services. So back in the day, I don't know how young you are, Holly, but remember when the World Wide Web came out, the www. came out? We were so far behind. We had to catch up to the young children. Well, this is number 3. So this is the internet services, Web 3 services, that's actually going to connect all of those. So think of it as another web. However, I talked about this. We're going to go a little bit sideways for just a moment, though, when we're going to talk about what happened in 2012. Well, in 2012, the web, that being the hold of the old cabal system, actually lifted in 2012. And there's evidence of that now. So we saw this big web that they had, and we're replacing that web to connect all of us into this new quantum system. So that's actually coming into play overnight, I believe, the 14th and 15th. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that reacts and responds, so to speak, connecting. So I often say to people, if you are experiencing some outages in your accounts and this, that, and all the rest of it, it's probably because this new Web 3 has now come into play, and there may be a few little glitches, so to speak, as the matrix starts to connect.
That's interesting you said that, because my internet was out for 2 days last weekend, and there was no reason. Like, it just cut out. Didn't have it.
You should take it. Essential. Change the equation with supercharged hydration.
If I were him, I'd bundle my home and auto and pick up the real victory, savings.
Are you? They were probably doing
We got
upgrades.
20 minutes left.
Most likely. I got cut off 3 times. I was doing a private call the other day, and we just lost internet. The same thing, just disappears.
Yeah.
And I think that is definitely part of it.
Right.
We're seeing many, many blackouts, and this is what they say. You know, we'd be talking about blackouts, and we expect it to be all at once.
Right.
But I think this is always going to be that smooth transition where they're going to, as they, you know, drop things, they'll connect that one to that one and that one to that one, and it just keeps going around. So that's why I say to people, let's sit back, look at these fundamentals, because it's going to take time for all of this new web. And this is the energy web, the quantum physics, the quantum energies and frequencies, because a lot of people I know are talking about the feelings of frequencies that they're having at the moment. Emotions are going high and low and all over the place. And that's because we're changing or altering the actual structure. And you've got to remember, your phone is one of those ones that carries the frequency. And if we're talking about quantum phones, which often comes up, it's your phone that carries your energy in that phone as well. So as it becomes more and more quantum, your frequency frequency or your algorithms that you hold on to is actually held in your phone as well. A lot of people now are already noticing that it doesn't have 4G or 5G, it actually says Starlink. So they're obviously already connected without even knowing they're connected. So there you go. People are experiencing these changes in frequencies, and so there is a lot going on. But the Web3 is connecting, and that should take a little while to connect the world into the new Web 3.0. So looking forward to that. So a few more fundamentals in place.
Yes. So just going back to the wallet, that's a universal wallet.
Oh, yes.
Actually.
Yes.
It's probably going to be like a Lobster Coinbase or Kraken, Uphold. Yep. Probably those are universal because you can send anything to anybody as long as you have their address.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
But
that's
what I
mean.
mean.
In the banking, there is their own internal banking that connects to their treasury.
Their treasury, yes. And that's right. And it's like, you know, without people even realizing it or knowing it or understanding it, they are on a digital asset blockchain / crypto blockchain. And oblivious to them, that they're already on it. And I would often say that every time you tap and go, you're already on a crypto blockchain. And think of it like that. And it's a lot of things are not going to appear until you search into it or want to expand that knowledge. But otherwise, your banking is really not going to change, other than the fact it is now digitalized in the background, and you change a slightly different way of, you know, banking, as I said, through an app.
Right.
It's going to be, nothing much is going to change other than the fundamentals in the background. And I think that's quite important to understand, but not to be too over, you know, involved in it. But you can certainly understand that that is the digital world that we're going to. And it's for those who want to trade still on the stock market, because there's always questions such as the stock market, is it going to stay? Is it going? Well, they utilise that platform. And that's also what we call a clearinghouse platform. And a clearinghouse is that
14 minutes left, you guys.
Is also a payment program where they pay out, and that was also utilised for that of the governments when they're trading stocks and bonds, and they had to clear all their debts with the Treasury. They utilised that clearinghouse, or that stock market clearinghouse, which is that payment program platform for the stocks and bonds. So they utilised that one as well. So that's why I say I don't think the actual stock market's going to go away. But here's something, Colin. I just thought of this. Let's go back to real estate, because it's one of those things that always kind of pops up as well. We're talking about the wallets, of course, as I said, they're going to be standardised. But let's touch very quickly on real estate. We actually had some very interesting developments in the last few weeks here in Australia regarding the real estate market. And I heard a little whisper in the markets just over the weekend, just gone, and people who have, say, negative geared their properties or have several different investment properties have just realised that some of the loopholes or tax advantages have now closed.
PetSmart's app helps you find the perfect pet care. We also have Store.
Now, some people may think that's a bad thing, but it's actually a good thing because it brings us all into this level playing field. So when we talk about on our digital assets, I'm going to be explaining the difference between negative gearing and positive gearing. And this is part of that new generational thought pattern. And I very quickly came to my attention that the real estate agents that I am connected with said that, Mel, it's looking like there's 30% of their property sales have now been with investment properties. 30%. So people who have probably may have overextended themselves on some investment properties or have worked out they're not going to gain as much advantage any longer, so they are actually selling their properties. This is going to flood the market. And how do we get to 1955 prices? It's going to happen quite rapidly by the looks of things, because this negative gearing loophole has, like I said, has closed, and the advantages of negative gearing is not that positive because it's negative. Interesting perspective when we go into this generational wealth, though, Holly, where we're going to be talking about things like positive gearing and how to sustain a viable business, so as that when we're talking about foundations and how we set the foundations of our own humanitarian projects, those foundations also include sometimes assets, and assets such as buildings that are used for the homeless. They still have to remain viable to keep the homeless in those homes. So we're going to be talking about positive gearing rather than negative gearing, as this wealth transfer we know is going to happen, because it is happening, just don't know when. But there's certainly a lot more education that we need to be doing. So I am changing directions slightly, only because we have already seen the movement of the RV actually happening. And now I think it's time to really get the boots on the ground if you're a humanitarian and you want to learn and research a little bit more about sustaining a viable project, then you certainly need to come along for the ride and have a good listen to about what's going on in all aspects, not just in the banking aspects as well, because it does alter and change, as I said, the value of properties if they are to fall. You know, that also affects the banking as well. So I just thought I'd just throw that one in there, and maybe you would be able to tell us a little bit more on your side if prices are dropping, or are they still steady over there? Or
They're still steady at the moment. Yeah, they have not been dropping. So
yeah, so
under 10 minutes.
I think we're going to see the onset of what the boys were talking about over the weekend. I think, you know, in the next coming months, you could certainly say that people are sort of realising that things are changing, of course, in the IRS, as I said, and the tax loopholes that have just been released here in Australia. I think your tax system happens in September, in the fall, I think.
no,
It's the next time.
for paying taxes here.
Yeah, when's the next
You
one?
pay
September?
April 15th.
April 15th. Yeah, okay. So that's what I mean. I think by April, you're going to start to see some alterations or changes that it's interesting. It's some interesting times ahead. So we'll see what happens in the next few months.
You know,
keep an eye on.
Listening to our conversation, it's almost like they introduced something new, such as we had Zelle. We've had that for a while, and everybody gets used to it. We also have Venmo and Cash App and Apple Pay. So you have all these ways to just transfer money. We get used to that, and it's very easy, but then it's almost like they went and they internally changed the guts of it to that rigid, where we don't even know that that happened. Unless you read an article, you have no clue that this has been done. So we're just, you know, going about business as usual, but it's all been done right in, you know, plain sight without us have any clue what they're doing. So it's very interesting.
This is your summer in a can. Limoncello, crafted the Italian way. Real fruit juice.
It is, and that was another reason why I brought up the real estate, because these new apps are now allowing people to transfer extremely large amounts of money within seconds.
Yeah.
So, before, when we used to sell a property or purchase a large ticket item, it would take several days and this, that, and all the rest of it. And that's another reason why I brought it up, is to say that they are doing so much in the background with these apps that it will be instantaneous, it will be tokenized with its own little block on the blockchain, so to speak, and everything will be tokenized, so as nothing can be altered or changed, because that's what the problem was before. We had, with the Bitcoin blockchain, the way it was designed was using a hashtag system, and every time it went through a computer, someone would change an algorithm in it to alter and change it. Whereas with the quantum system that we're moving into, you can rest assured that, as I said, that there is no alterations once the block or the sale of, whether it be a loaf of bread to a house or to a car or some commercial property, understand that once that block or that transaction has been completed, there is no entering into that to alter or change it. It is, clear, safe and transparent all the way through from all of that. So looking forward to, getting through all of this and seeing what's going to happen on the other side. But you're right, Holly, it's going to be smooth. It's not going to be noticeable. It's just that, those of us who are in the know need to entertain ourselves, because we're waiting on something bigger than what we can actually grab right now. And I think it's always important to make sure that and understand that these fundamentals that we are talking about right now, it's not pushing back the RV, but for the RV to happen, all of that has to be in place in all countries around the world, because it was all signed, all 209 countries signed an agreement. So until every single country is in alignment on that railway track, so to speak, or all on that, linked to that reserve of currencies which are backed by gold and silver, then we all have to be very, very patient and understand what's actually going on in the fundamentals.
Right.
So very, very important.
So final wrap up for the audience that's listening today.
Final wrap up. Take a deep breath. It's happening. But you and I, we both know we've been around for quite some time. We all have connections in some way, shape or form. And as I said, don't use this roller coaster ride as an emotional roller coaster ride. Take a step back, continue to live, as we always say, live in the now, while, things are transitioning, and know that if anything was going to happen, I'm pretty sure Holly will be out on here doing another little update if things have moved along the way. But at the moment, both of us are both in an agreement that there is no actual money movement per se. Money may be in place. We can't confirm or deny that, but we can certainly substantiate that, as I said, with things that are being signed in executive orders. The Treasury have stated that the silver certificates are now valid. So that's very, very important. As I said, as things become signed, sealed and delivered, then we will deliver that to you. In the meantime, sit back, relax and enjoy the ride, because there's still some really good stuff coming out. So
I'm going to ask you a question that I asked Will Barney the other day, and see how you answer this. For all those that are frustrated and have bought into the hopium and nothing's happened, and they're on that roller coaster ride, and they're frustrated and they're sick and they have financial problems, what do you say to them how to navigate this until it happens?
It's interesting how to navigate. First of all, look at your own financial situation and ask. It is very, very, very important. If you are struggling to, say, pay a power bill, please ring the power company up, make an arrangement. What is more affordable for you? If something has happened and you need assistance, it's about asking. Ask your neighbour to come and help fix a window instead of getting a handyman in. Whatever the situation is, ladies and gentlemen, take a sidestep.
You think he was offside? Of course he was offside. No, it was not. Ay, Dios mío. Keep the conversation going
Right,
with
guys,
Nescafe.
that's the end.
University of...
I think that was right at the end there. It was finished. Well, we did it. I can't believe this hot day I had. Luckily, my air conditioner was working better today. It was 105 out there today. So we got a lot of good news out today. I didn't think I was going to get all that stuff out, but we got them all out. Yep, EGKK and Flying Eagle and or Bella, I meant, and then Ariella. So thanks again, mods. You did a good job again with all the trolls. And Lucy, Carol, Tim. Carol, I don't know, it must be her church. Must be her church night. Tuesday, I think. And Lucy, Carol, Tim, and AKA Michael. So, yep. After 3 o'clock, only unless something happens, I'll be on. But tomorrow night could be something tomorrow night. So, I'll be up, but I won't go on until we get some big breaking news tomorrow night. So save my energy for tomorrow. Let's he'll be up at 9 o'clock tomorrow night. Yep, let's see, Mom. All right. God bless everybody. Love all. Remember, please hit the like. Stay safe, stay strong, keep your faith. There we go. Another good day of Intel. Hot day. Signing off, Chico and Dude. See you guys all tomorrow.